Beautiful people. How are you today? I hope you guys are having a great day because I am having a great day. And today we are out here doing what? We are giving it to the people. So I just want you to know that this is a show where we focus on BIPOC businesses, which is Black, Indigenous, and people of color. And today I have a BIPOC business that's out here that is wonderful. And I'm just so happy to know her. And I need you to know her too. So what we do is highlight the stories of women. We highlight the stories of Black people. And we highlight the stories of organizations that also help these businesses to be successful. So today I get the opportunity to interview Dr. Teneka Steed. Give it up for Dr. Teneka Steed. Woo, 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 woo. Oh, hold up. I got my Yes. All right. So how are you today, beautiful?
I am doing good. How are you?
I am wonderful. And you know what? I was very excited about this interview. And, you know, the one thing that I could say is everybody loved you. Now, let me explain why I say that. Because we did the Small Biz Summit, right? And this was Teneka's first time, like, teaching in front of people. And I was like, you're going to do wonderful and put you in a big room. It's going to be really great. And everybody was like, oh, my God, she was so engaging. She was so enthralling. And so for me, I think that that is a wonderful compliment for people to give you, especially when they come to, you know, a session that you're doing. So even before we find out about you, what type of feedback did you get from people when you came and you taught at the Small Business Summit? What did they say to you?
The most common thing that I got is they wanted more and it wasn't enough time.
All right.
Also,
hold up, you went on mute.
Okay. Why? Okay, so they definitely love the engagement piece. They also love how I started the presentation and actually got to them thinking about, you know, what data is, how they can use it in their business. And then the cool thing that we also got to do, which someone also loved, was the hot seats. I did hot seats for their businesses so they can get feedback, not only to take what they learned inside the session, but take it back from what we saw, you know, from their websites and their ideas to grow their business.
And that makes a difference. I think whenever you do presentations, sometimes a lot of people want to just talk at you, right? Mm-hmm. Like, this is what I have in my mind. So this is what we're going to do. And when it comes to really being able to engage people and to get them to really understand how things can be used for them, you got to ask them questions, right? And you have to actually bring them into what you're talking about. So that does play a role in how successful it is. Now, with your company, Willene Agency, I want to just know, like, how did you get started in the first place, and give us a little bit on your background?
Okay, so I started back in undergrad. I went to North Carolina Central University. I majored in psychology. So I thought I wanted to be a psychologist. Fast forward, I did an internship at Duke University with Dr. Edwards. He was amazing. And he gave me a lot of leadership in my internship. And I had to go in, and I had my own patients. I had to go in, diagnose them and all those good things. And we did like a roundtable with the doctors and some of the practical students there. And he relied on me to diagnose a patient at that time. And I felt like there was a lot of responsibility. I left that day. I never forget. I left that day. I was like, I don't want to do this. I don't want to label people. I just want to help people. And the part that I loved about the internship was the actual assessment side. And so when I got into the assessment side of it, I was like, maybe there's something over here I could do. So I did some research because I'm a natural researcher, and I found out that I could be a psychometrician. So with psychometrician, all that is just taking the metrics of assessments and making sure that they are fair to test takers. Fast forward from there, I went to UNCG, majored in educational research methods, which focus on assessment and measurement, statistics, and program evaluation. And that's how I got into the field, in a short story. And I worked with different federal organizations and state organizations, had a couple of internships with College Board, who actually makes the SAT. So that's how I got here. Yeah.
Okay. And you know what? I think that that is a unique story because you have to love numbers, and you have to also, in your profession, I would imagine, love being able to explain why something is a certain way, right?
Yes, yes.
There's always the phrase that I love when it says men, I mean, what is it? Men lie, women lie, but numbers
The
don't.
numbers don't lie. Yeah.
I also know that you can take numbers and manipulate them to, whichever way you need people to go. So it's so funny, like
Yes.
when you say the thing of like, okay, and I tell people, listen, sometimes people don't need to know all of your business, right? So if you say, okay, well, look, I got one brand new client and you went from 0 to 1, that was 100% increase, right? Because you didn't have
Yeah.
any. So even though you're using the numbers, use them to make it make sense for you. So I think that, when you're talking about this and just your path and your trajectory, knowing that you didn't want to do something, that was an
Mhm.
important thing. So with that internship, just being able to be in there, I want you to just touch a little bit more on when you said you don't want to label people, because I would think that people still, in order for them to get as much from you with their customers, at some point in time, they need to kind of figure out the type of customer that they want. But when you said you don't want to label people, give me a little bit more on that, because I think that that's interesting.
So in the field of health, that's a whole nother story. Um, I just think it's a stigmatism. People are diagnosed with these certain disorders or symptoms or whatever, and it sticks with them. And I didn't want to be responsible for that.
Mm,
Um, and I'll be transparent. When you're studying like psychology or whatever, you're and when you're in the field of health, you're kind of just taking, you're guessing.
mm,
And you can mislabel someone. And I know people have had that experience. I've heard that. Like you can mislabel someone. And the other thing behind that is when you actually in a practice, you have to label someone in order to get paid from insurance. So I
yeah.
didn't want to go into the politics of that. So that's why. Yeah.
No, I think that's a great reason, and I understand that. And it is something that's a big responsibility once you do that, right?
Hmm.
And then making sure that this way, then they follow a course of care that's necessary. So, but not doing that and then transitioning to doing what you do. Can you share some of the services that you provide in your business? Because you talked about working with government agencies and schools and colleges and things of that nature. But if a person says, "Well, look, how can you help me, Dr. Teneka? Like, what is it that you do for, if it is for a government agency, but also for the person that's like, listen, I want to learn more about my customers. Give us some of that information."
Yes. So what I really specialize in, and what I love is the whole survey and questionnaire development. My dissertation was revolved around that. Just to go out for a tangent, my dissertation was developing a survey for a Superwoman schema for Black women to measure stress and coping.
Mm,
And so I love to develop surveys, come up with questions, and see how that impacts not only the health field or like communities or whatever or businesses.
mhm,
So that's what I specialize in. We actually, help you develop a survey if you need a survey developed or a questionnaire developed. We help you collect that data. We also help. Analyze the data and do the reporting for you. And in addition to that, provide recommendations based off what the outcomes are from the survey or questionnaire. So
And
that's
that's,
our specialty. Yeah.
yeah, and that's really helpful because you have a lot of people that are just guessing. They're just like, let me throw a dart at the board and see. And I think that when you look at the fact of sometimes just ask people what they want. Like it's such a
Yeah.
simple concept, but now do you think that your surveys tend to, and I'm going to use this word kind of, gingerly, but lead people to a certain way? Because I would imagine that if I'm trying to do a survey, I want to know the answers to certain things because maybe in my mind I've already kind of configured that I want to go in direction A, B, or C, but maybe my questions, will help to lead people to one of these types of answers, right? So that this way I know what next product to put out or when to host something or, what a person didn't like as opposed to what they did. Do the surveys in some way kind of lead people in a direction that you've already predetermined?
It can. It
Okay.
can, because I highly suggest when you're doing surveys to have an intention on
Mm-hmm.
what you want it to be. Like you just don't want to start with anything. You want to know what your intentions are. So it's sort of like doing a research study. Like you have your questions. So what are your questions? What are your intentions? So the survey will give you exactly what you're looking for.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that could be Open-ended questions, meaning that they are questions people could ask, like, what do you think about our services? What do you think about XYZ product? But you also could have the multiple choice questions where those are more direct, like, how do you feel about our SERM? Is it the greatest? Is it poor? Is it neutral? Whatever. So that's more direct. So you can make it where you can get the questions that you do want, but I do also advise kind of leaving it kind of open and getting that open feedback.
Yeah, because I was definitely going to ask that. Do you suggest more of an open-ended, or do you suggest something where it's more pointed? Because I would imagine you always get somebody that's a little bit lazy, that doesn't really want to answer the whole thing. So they might put something, real short, real quick. And it's like, but that they may have more information. Now, with your surveys, when people take them, is everything online? Or is this something where you get survey in person also?
Now that everything is digital, everything is more online. It's easier because it's the easier process from creating it and then giving it out and then actually receiving the information. Now it's easier for the business owner or the analyst who's doing it. Back in the day when I started, it was paper and pencil, but it can be both. You have to be very mindful of doing paper and pencil, because if people are writing in, you may not understand like what they have written. And that is a huge problem when it comes to doing like in like the actual paper pencil surveys. But now people are doing more of the digital surveys. You may have where some people do paper and pencil, but it's very rare. But most everything is online now. Yeah.
Are any of the surveys like where you're talking to a person, like similar to what we're doing? So you ask them a question and then you get the feedback. Do you do any of those types of surveys? Because I would imagine those, even being open-ended, might still be even more information because a person might feel more comfortable sharing more. Do you do any like that too?
Yeah, so we have done focus groups where there are a small group of people, but also one-on-ones like this. So with technology now, you can do the Zooms and the Google Meets and stuff, Microsoft Teams. So you're able to go in and do the interviews one-on-one. And these types of interviews are actually more enriched for the information you're trying to collect. From my experience and expertise, it's great to have, this type of interview, one-on-one focus groups in combination with the survey, because it just makes your data, your information richer.
Yeah, a little more well-rounded. Now, if there is, I guess the biggest thing would be, what type of companies would this be good for? Because they're trying to find the answers to certain questions, or maybe they didn't even know that they needed to do a survey. But what type of companies would you recommend that utilize your service?
Definitely all businesses, but it's very great for e-commerce businesses, service-based businesses, coaches and consultants. Right now, I know they've been trying to regulate the coaching and consulting businesses that are online right now. And doing surveys and collecting that information would actually help regulate some of those things and make it valid in a sense, because like, how do we make, coaching and consulting valid? What makes you the expert? Do you know what you're providing is making an impact, on your clients and customers? So definitely, coaches, consultants, and definitely e-commerce. That when e-commerce is great, because not only do you have the data that's collected now on the back end, like Shopify, a lot of businesses use Shopify. You have that data coming in. You can also use that data and mesh it with the surveys or whatever and collect the information on, okay, how's my products doing? Is our shipping doing well? Is our products doing well? Is our customer service doing well? So yeah.
I like that. Now, when we're looking at this, because I'm just thinking about different ways, because it's okay. So Dr. Sneaker just had a baby not too long ago. How old is the baby now?
She'll be 2 weeks, February 1st. No, not 2 weeks, 2 months, February 1st.
I was about to say, first of all, ma'am, you did not. She forgot how old the baby was. 2 months. So listen, this is the thing. We love a good mompreneur. So if you hear that in the background, that is her work assistant that is helping out. Okay. I don't know. She may be asking a question in baby language and we just don't know what it is, but it's okay. That's her assistant. Okay. So the thing is, when we kind of look at this and we say, okay, I see, why. Do you recommend that a business use it before, or a person that's thinking about starting a business, before they even start the business? Because I would imagine that you have some people that are like, well, I'm thinking about it. I don't know who my customers are. And, I want to kind of find out. And, what would you say to a person who's thinking about starting and they haven't fully, got everything together. They have the idea, but for them to use surveys, what are some of the things that you would say that they might need to ask people?
Not only using surveys, but I would start with the market research, like what's already out there. Doing some of that market research is already out there.
Mhm.
This is like secondary data. This is data that's already collected. There's tons of information on Google. You can find out about your business, like, what are the trends in the market? Where are my customers at? Even Facebook ads. So going back into the Facebook Manager, like you don't have to go and do an ad. You can go in Facebook Manager and get some of that data already that's collected, across, the globe pretty much. And you could see exactly, what customers want, what customers don't want, where are the customers at, where do the customers hang out. Starting there is very, very important. Also doing focus groups, a small focus group. It doesn't have to be a huge focus group. It could be 4 or 5 people that you can get together and ask them about, the products you want to provide or the customer service or services that you want to provide. So that is very, very important, because being an entrepreneur, starting a business, especially if it's small, it takes time and it takes a lot of money, and you don't want to waste a lot of money. So, going in and doing that research, that market research, doing your focus groups, doing those surveys in the beginning is definitely going to save you time and going to save you money. But at the same time, you'll actually know, is this product worth putting out to the marketplace? Is this service, worth putting out into the marketplace? Do they even need it? Or should I, go and pivot off into another direction? Because you just don't know. You don't know.
Yeah. And that makes sense, because sometimes I always tell people, listen, when you break it down and you say, how do I do this business? You could look at 10 different people and they could have the same business and they could do it totally, completely differently. And it's a lot of it has to do with experience. It could be location. It could be who knows who, that connectivity. It could be certifications, education. It could be a lot of things that lead a person to look at the same exact business and do it differently. But when you survey and you really then take the time to kind of get to know who are your people and what do they want, then that can lead your business. Now, I just want to get your take on this, because there's been a lot of trends now that, and this was one of the things that was said at the Small Business Summit, that was Carl Robinson, who owns R&R Trucking. He was basically saying the companies now are having to bend to the will of their employees and to their customers for what they want, right? So I just saw this video where they have a Taco Bell that is fully, completely automated. Now, I'm sure there are probably some humans somewhere, but you go, you type in your thing, you know what I'm saying? You put your order, it drops your order down from this thing, it's in the bag, and you swivel it just like if you were at a bank teller, right? Now, when you think about this, somebody had to do a survey to say, people don't want to deal with people. They want to have this automated service, right? And even if you notice now, if you may not have seen that Taco Bell, because it wasn't in this side, I think it was like in California. Okay. When you go into McDonald's now, McDonald's has it, right? When I go into the Walmart, which I do not like to have to always bag my groceries. So I don't like going in and I have no choice but to bag my own groceries. Can you give me the option? So when you look at that and you look at how companies are changing and shifting, what would you say as far as like, what are they doing to see if this is what customers really want? Are they just assuming it? Or do you think that they actually did some research to say, you know what, people want to bag their own groceries? Right?
They actually did some research. Big companies, they always are collecting data. They actually have huge research and development teams. They do not go into business unless they know exactly who their customer is, what their customer want. And even after they start the business, with this huge research and development team, they're always collecting data, always going out and doing focus groups. I had a friend who worked at Procter and Gamble. So she worked in Procter and Gamble, and they did a lot of focus groups for Walmart. So they are actually continuously doing research and development, understanding who their customer is, actually bringing a customer in and asking them, do you love gang? Do you love gang on this aisle? Does it make sense to be on this aisle? Should we add in detergent for moms and babies? How do you feel about, whatever in relation to, let's say, like detergent? So they're always doing research. They're just not throwing anything out there and just, okay, if this works, we're going to pray and hope it works. No, they're asking the customer all the time. I love Nike. So every time I would go to Orlando, I would go to the Nike outlet. So when you go to the Nike outlet, and I think even at Nike, they on their receipt, it will say they want your feedback. In exchange for the feedback, you get like $20 off. That's research. So they're asking you, okay, did you find what you're looking for? How was the sales rep? Did the sales rep help you? Do you want to provide additional information? Would you like to see more of this type of shoe in the store? So if you people don't pay attention, but if you pay attention, these companies are always collecting information. And in exchange for them getting information from you, they are giving you something in return.
Now, why do you think that some of our smaller businesses don't do that? Now, I mean, one thing that I would say is sometimes they just don't think about it. Like that would be the first thing. But why do you think that some of our smaller businesses are not taking the time to invest in, following up with their customers and researching what their customers want?
This is just my personal opinion. I just think that our industry has not done enough of educating and informing even the public on, how important research and information is. And so you just think that, I don't need it, or I don't even know what it is. Most people don't even know what it is. I always tell people every day they're collecting data every day. They've been doing this for years. That's exactly how they know how to build homes, how to, why Walmart has the self-checkout. And actually, speaking of that, they said that customers wanted that. So anyway, but so I think it's informing the public on how important research is. And when it comes to business, you always hear about marketing, and then inside of marketing, you hear a little bit of the research, like what's my customer avatar, whatever, but not really, how do I incorporate this into my business where it's long-term, like a bigger business where I can grow it, where I can satisfy my customers, and continue to strive. So
yeah. No, and I like that. And, honestly, I was excited for this interview because I said to myself, you know what? I have some new things that I do want to do. And I think that starting from a research perspective and surveying people like what you're talking about makes sense, because I think sometimes we're so busy trying to get to the dollar that maybe we don't spend as much time in that research area. And so when I'm teaching people, I always tell them, look, do that focus group, send that survey, ask people what they think before you start. But you know what I don't do as much is say continuously survey them, like keep it up, like do that on a regular basis to see it. And I know that a lot of people do, and they do like an annual survey, but maybe an annual survey isn't enough. You know what I'm saying? So how much, if you're talking about, like, if you were looking at your average business, how many times a year would you say that you think that they should survey their people?
I would say starting out quarterly, 4 times a year. And in addition to that, creating a budget. It doesn't have to be a huge budget, but a budget could be $100, could be $500, and putting that into, that budget could be hiring an analyst, also putting it into building out your survey and the platform that you're going to use for the survey, and using it to actually get an incentive for people to complete your survey or participate in your focus groups. So yeah. So starting there,
and I like that. I mean, I like that because quarterly. And I think that makes sense. Now, when your person is talking about, and just because you touched on investment, what should they expect to spend? Like, let's say they say, well, look, Dr. Teneka, I love what you're saying. I would love to get your services. On a low end and a high end, what would you say would be something that a person is looking at if they're, coming to you?
For me to do the surveys, or just
because they don't want to do them.
Okay.
No, okay. Listen, I'm trying to tell you, I know my people. They're like, listen, how much is Dr. Teneka? They want to know like low end, high end, so they can put it into their budget.
Yeah. Well, first, I like to do consultations just to figure out exactly what their need. But if you're going to do something really small, I would say something around like $500. starting out, that gets you, the survey piece developed, maybe some recruiting for how to recruit, people to take your survey, actually provide an incentive at the end for the people to take the survey. So $500, I would say, starting out something really, really small. You want to get done fast and quick. All the way into the high end, I would say, it could go to 5,000 or more.
$1 million. Go up to $1 million. You put your pinky, $1 million. But no, but that's a good thing, so that this way a person kind of has a range, and then they can go ahead. So where can they contact you to get that consultation?
Well, definitely my website, WilleneAgency.com, and that's WILLENE agency.com. And you can also find me on LinkedIn at Teneka Steed.
Yes, definitely. Now, if you had any advice to leave our business owners with, that would allow them to just be more successful in relation to what you do and how you help people, what would that piece of advice be?
I would say, don't be afraid of data. Don't be afraid of numbers, because at the end of the day, it's just information. All we do as analysts is take that information and change it into numbers so that we can analyze it and get some type of trend or outcome that you're looking for and give back to you, so you can use that to impact your business, impact your customers and clients, and continue to grow your business. So don't be afraid of data at all. You can start doing, your own data collection, your own surveys or whatever in a small portion. Start with a focus group, start with an interview like this, select a couple of customers to ask them, feedback about your business or your product. So start there. Don't be afraid of data. It's just information.
Yeah, no, I think that's great advice, because sometimes people don't want to know the numbers. They just want to keep going blindly, but knowing it then puts you in a better position where now you can do something about it. Because what if you thought something was really good and people weren't really paying attention to that? And that means, hey, stop doing that thing, right? And so now do more of this, because this is really where people are paying attention. And I think, okay. So yeah, I think that can be something beneficial to everybody. And that to me is great advice. All right. Well, Dr. Teneka, thank you so much for being on today, and being able to just help us to understand, what you do, how important those numbers are, and why we should definitely use surveys in our business. And you know now how to contact Dr. Teneka. It'll also be listed below. If you are watching this on the replay, then feel free to share it, and you can still leave comments. We love comments afterwards, because we use those and we share them, with other people, to let people know people were watching and they were paying attention. And it's just really a great thing to be able to introduce, all these great businesses to you. So thank you so much for being on today, you and your assistant.
Yes.
We're gonna let the assistant, because she must need time. She's like, listen, okay, this interview is over. So we want to make sure she gets her time too, so this way she doesn't have to file a complaint against you. All right, thank you so much. And everybody else, as usual, make sure that you always show up and show out, and you continue to give it to the people. Bye, guys.